The Song of the Golden Shingles, a Schwerin Castle Tale. The autumn of 1845 sank over Lake Schwerin like a velvet curtain. Mists rose from the water and wrapped the wooden scaffolds that clung to the old ducal palace like bleached bones. Among the planks climbed 18-year-old Johann Demmler, nephew of court architect Georg Adolf Demmler. His fingers were rough, but his heart beat louder than any carpenter's mallet. "Remember, boy," his uncle had said, "we're not putting up a house, we're raising a legend. The castle must sing when the wind passes the towers." Johann did not yet grasp how stone could sing, but he kept silent. For weeks he had been nailing copper-gilded shingles to the steep spire, their leaf-thin gold eager to outshine the sun. While he worked, he listened to the lake. Its waves lapped against the pilings and whispered of Slavs, dukes, and knights. Schwerin never slept. It murmured. Drums and visions. On the second morning of October, steam whistles shrieked from the new rail yard. A coal-black locomotive exhaled crates, packed with terracotta figures that Grand Duke Friedrich Franz II had ordered from Italy. He wanted his residence to glitter, a fairy-tale beacon for all Europe. Johann helped prise open the crates. A fountain nymph barely the length of his arm smiled through the drizzle. In her marble calm, he sensed the same defiance stirring in him. Schwerin would no longer be a sleepy duchy. Here, between 7 lakes, they were stitching a fresh garment of sandstone, copper, and dreams. That night the builders crowded the tavern Zum Alten Fritz. The beer was flat, but the talk burned bright. Stühler, the Berlin star architect, had conferred with Demmler. Rumor said even Gottfried Zemper had sketched suggestions. Some scoffed. "Too many heads will warp the tower." Johann inwardly kissed every parchment. The higher the ambition, the clearer the future song, he thought. The storm of memory. November stormed in. Black clouds ripped canvas sheets away and lashed water onto the island. One night Johann woke to snapping timber. A rotten scaffold pole plunged into the courtyard. He hurried out barefoot, just in time to see his uncle's hair dusted white with chalk. "The castle has bones like ours," Demmler panted. "Sometimes they break before they grow strong." The next day he summoned the crew. "We inherit walls that the Slavs once called Schwerin," he declared. "Since Henry the Lion, war and plague have tested every stone. We, however, build for peace, and peace is born of patience, not haste." Men nodded. Women laid aside mortar trowels and pushed damp hair from their foreheads. Johann felt the wind itself listening, and it blew softer across the waters. The voice of the lake. Winter padlocked Schwerin in ice. Johann still hammered shingles, yet his thoughts raced ahead. Would people travel from every corner to see these golden roofs? Would they chime on still summer nights? One dawn he stood alone atop the highest platform. The city lay beneath him. Half-timbered gables, church spires, smoking chimneys. Bells hung above everything like frozen light. He closed his eyes. A faint humming drifted around him, as if the brand-new shingles themselves were tuning. The wind skimmed over them, and Johann finally understood his uncle's riddle. The castle was singing, a quiet, warm note promising, "Here perseverance has found its voice." Masquerade in March. In March 1847, the Dukes hosted a progress ball inside a half-finished ancestral hall. Workers received humble invitations. Their hands had earned the right to soak pine tar with wine. Johann borrowed a tailcoat whose sleeves were too long and joined the polonaise like an unsure crane. Gas lamps painted shadows over half-painted frescoes. In the glow stood the Grand Duke himself. He looked at the calloused hands, raised his glass. "May these walls carry not only stone, but soul." Johann saw his uncle swallow the compliment like rare port. Demmler seldom smiled, yet his eyes blazed with pride. Later, while a soft waltz drifted, a court lady with chestnut hair approached Johann. "They say you can hear how the castle sings," she whispered. Johann blushed. "Perhaps, if the wind lends an ear." She smiled and rested her gloved hand upon the gilt buttons of his borrowed coat. Trial by fire. Just before the first magnolia buds burst, a smoldering fire broke out in the west wing. Tar torches had touched draperies. Sparks crawled across wooden supports. Johann smelled burning paint and dashed inside. Amid smoke stood the marble nymph from autumn, soot-black yet intact. He toppled water barrels, smothered embers with soaked canvas. Sparks stung like wasps. When the blaze surrendered, Johann collapsed on a stone stair. Demmler arrived, laid a silent hand on his shoulder. "The castle has endured," he murmured. Some beams were charred, but the foundation was firm. In the ash, the gilded shingles glittered like starlight in dark soil. The first bell. Summer, 1851. The main tower received its clock and 4-ton bell, cast in Laukhammer. All Schwerin listened as the hammer fell for the first time, a deep note rolling across the lake. Gulls burst upward, fish leapt as though answering. Johann, now a foreman, stood in the courtyard. He watched sound glide over water and rebound. In that echo, the lake's whisper merged with bronze. His heartbeat matched its slow, sure rhythm. A palace awakens. When the final scaffolds dropped in 1857, the castle mirrored itself in the lake. No longer Mecklenburg's secret, but the world's marvel. Papers in Paris, Vienna, London hailed it as the Neuschwanstein of the North. Travelers streamed along new rail tracks. During the inauguration, Kutschen clattered over the bridge, ladies in lace gasped, gentlemen bowed to arcades and turrets. The Grand Duke paused on the marble stairs and listened. Perhaps he too heard a whispering chorus of copper and gold. Johann stood to the side, hat in hand, the chestnut-haired lady. Now a lady-in-waiting met his gaze. Words were unnecessary. The pride shining in her eyes matched the roar of his blood. Afterglow. They say Schwerin has never fallen silent. On misty nights when tourists sleep and the lake lies still, one can hear the wind brush golden shingles. It is a quiet tone, almost a heartbeat. Johann Demmler lived many years, carving ceilings, polishing stucco, telling his son that every building guards a secret. It stores the dreams of those who raise it. When rain falls, those dreams drip into the lake, mingle with old Slavic legends and the distant hiss of locomotives, until Schwerin itself becomes a living chord of stone, water, and heartbeat. So if you stand on the castle island today, you may see only turrets and a fairy tale silhouette. But when the breeze is right, listen, the song of the golden shingles, the echo of a young craftsman who learned that history is not a dusty chapter, but a resonant chord still ringing across the water.